About a year ago, I reconnected with two of my half-siblings that were also adopted on the set of a documentary that never got aired. Hi, my name is Melissa Guida Richards, and I am an adoptee and adoption educator. Thanks for joining me today. About a year ago, I reconnected with two of my half-siblings that were also adopted on the set of a documentary that never got aired. And honestly, that was so disappointing to hear. But one of the most devastating parts of it is that all the footage and pictures of my sisters is basically lost to us forever. I have, I think, two, maybe three, if I can scrounge up, pictures of me meeting my biological siblings. And everything else, I'm not allowed to share. So I wanted to make this video just to talk a little bit about that experience, what it was like meeting my sisters, and what other adoptees have to look forward to when they reconnect with birth siblings. Now, to add a little backstory, I am a late discovery adoptee, which means that I didn't find out that I was adopted until I was 19 years old. And that's a whole nother video, but basically I was adopted into an immigrant family, an Italian and Portuguese immigrant family, and my upbringing was both good and bad. I always had the necessities. I had food, shelter, but there was a lot of intergenerational trauma in my family. And they weren't properly prepared by the adoption agency to adopt a child in general and to adopt a child of another race. So I ended up writing my first book and then my next book, What White Parents Should Know About Transracial Adoption, the workbook. And over time, I started looking more into the adoption industry and what that meant. And about, I would say, 6-ish years ago, my then boyfriend, now husband, gifted me a 23andMe test. And for the first 2 years, the only thing I really found out from the test was like very, very basic, medical history. And like third and fourth cousins. There was like a second cousin that I found maybe 3 years ago, but they had no idea who my birth mother was, and that side of the family, I guess, never talked. So that was kind of a dead end. But then about three and a half years ago, I was on my way to therapy and I received a message that said, hey, I just saw my 23andMe results and it looks like we're half siblings. And I'll put the actual message up here in editing, but that's basically what it said. And I ended up reconnecting with my second eldest sister, Sara, and we connected back and forth. We had a lot of similarities. We're both into reading, and we just clicked. But the story was a little complicated because my sister Jessica, the eldest of us, unfortunately was going through a really tough pregnancy, so she was not in a place to reconnect. And so me and my sisters, we kind of grew distant over the past year, and it took a long time for us to build up our relationship because we all had gone through different types of adoption trauma, and we had to go through a lot of processing that. But slowly we were able to build it up. We text every week. Me and my sister, we connect about our families, we connect about our children, and we started getting closer and closer and closer. And then unfortunately about 2 years ago, my adoptive father was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And because of that, and it was the middle of the pandemonium situation here, I was really, really nervous that I would finally decide to search for our birth mother and it would be too late. So, fueled by the desire to find my birth mom before it was too late, I hired a private investigator that specialized in Colombian adoptions. And they called themselves like the Search Angels. I sent them all of my paperwork, the copies of my birth mother's name, her cedula, which is basically like the Colombian version of a social security number. And they found her within 3 days. And suffice it to say, I never expected it to be that easy, but like all things in adoption, it was complicated too. But over the past 2 years with my birth mother, we've been growing our relationship. And my sisters and I, we decided to start a GoFundMe so we can meet each other in person and so we can meet our birth mother. Now, we all have the same birth mom, and we were all told different information about her, but we all still have a lot of love for her in our hearts, and we want to get to know her and our siblings in Colombia and our nephew, and just to go back to the world, and just to go back to our birth country and get to taste the culture and the language and the people in person. And so we posted that GoFundMe, and I linked my viral HuffPo essay about finding out that I was adopted later in life. And then I received a message from like a scout that was saying, hey, we're doing this documentary. It's about lost and found, like people and families finding each other and like the joy and the complexity and all of that. And we had like a preliminary call, and it was like an interview with just me that was like super long, and then we interviewed all together, me and my sisters. And the first time my sisters and I ever talked like face-to-face via video chat was during our interview for the documentary, because we're all like anxious people, so we would always just text or email. So that was the first time that we saw each other on camera, and we just got closer over this experience. And we went away for a weekend last Mother's Day. And it was in Florida, and they put us up in these amazing like $1 million places. And one of them had a Harry Potter room. One of them, like they had like video games and pinball machines and like spas in the house, like with hot tubs, you know, fully heated in-ground pools. There were like so many rooms, and it was just a gorgeous experience. But the entire time was like nerve-wracking because I got to go there early and settle in, and then I had to film my shots first because they kind of like used my late discovery adoption, my work as an adoptee advocate and adoption educator to kind of lead the narrative. And so I had to talk about my essay and how I got into this work and what I wanted from this reunion with my sisters. And they had me like driving a van with like cameras in the passenger side so I could barely see out one window. They had me going to a little Latin bodega where I got like empanadas and like arepas, and then we like walked around. They filmed me going to the airport and like pulling my luggage out of where you get your luggage at the airport, and all these scenes just to set up this amazing documentary. And I am really, really grateful for that team because let me tell you, they killed it. It was an amazing thing that I wish we could share with the world, but we can't, so I'm just talking about it. But anyway, so for like the first day, I spent hours and hours just like creating clips for them where I was like putting on my makeup and this and that. And then finally, towards the end of the day, I was able to meet my sisters. And the awkward part about it being a documentary is that it's kind of like reality TV where the things that are happening are real, but they are staged in a way to portray their storyline, which I don't blame them for, you know. They were able to fly us out, pay for all the accommodations, and pay us for our time, and I just really appreciate that. And so even though it was awkward, I really loved the experience. And so I was there waiting for like my shots to be done, and there was like a rest period, but then I heard like all the like assistants talking to each other. It was like, oh, like the sisters, they have to go use the bathroom, like what do we do, because they were waiting in the car. They were being driven from the hotel where they were staying so they could catch us meeting in person on camera for the first time, and they wanted that to be authentic. And so, like, they had me, like, run upstairs and hide in one of the bedrooms so they could go use the restroom and then go back out and then reset everything. And so, finally, it took, like, I don't know, a few hours for them to do that and set everything up and get the shots of them in the car and them talking about their hopes for meeting me. And I just remember being told, like, go walk up to the door, open it, and then greet your sisters. And so I did. I opened that door. And that's how I met my sisters in person for the first time. And automatically, it clicked. And I know, like, you have probably seen, like, reunions on TV and the tears and this and that. But, like, the emotions, like, are so overwhelming that we all, like, started bawling and crying and hugging each other. And I'm not like a touchy-feely person. I've always been bad with like physical affection, except for with my husband and my kids. And so I was a little nervous. It was gonna be so awkward and I just wouldn't feel that like sisterly bond. But it was instantaneous. And so we were able to spend the next 2 days together at Verbo and recording scenes for them. We went to like a little dance club, a Latin dance club. We went bowling, and on Mother's Day we had our first conversation on video chat with all three of us with our birth mother. We all had this like almost hour-long phone call with our birth mother, and it was like such a complicated process to set it up because we had to have a translator, we had to make sure the timing worked, we had to make sure my birth mother had access to a phone that could video chat because she lives in a very, very small town hours away from Bogota, Colombia, and so their access to internet isn't that great. And so coordinating all that was like a process, and I was kind of like in charge of like coordinating everything between my sisters and the crew and the production team and my birth mother and going back and forth. So it was a pretty stressful time for me and all of us in general, but we got it done and it was an amazing experience that I will never forget. And I'm so thankful for it, and hopefully one day, like fingers crossed, we can actually share the documentary. I got to see it a few months ago because the director shared access to me and my sisters so we could see our reunion in person because, like I said, we only had like 3 pictures. And I was able to share it with my adoptive mom, and it's been unbelievable how supportive my mom now is after everything that we had gone through and my adoption being a secret. And so now I'm excited to share with you guys that because of all like the fundraising and the work me and my sisters have been doing to save up, my eldest sister Jessica and I are officially going to Colombia in November to meet our birth mom. Unfortunately, Sarah cannot make it at this time, but she is hoping to go in another few years, and my sister-in-law is getting married in Colombia because I married into a half Colombian family, so that kind of works out for the convenience. So we're gonna schedule that hopefully another time once she's able to. But my husband, my mother-in-law is coming to help translate because I am not fluent in Spanish at all. My Spanish is terrible. I understand a lot because my parents spoke Italian growing up and it was very similar. And so my husband, my mother-in-law, my eldest sister Jessica, and we are going to meet our birth mom in person. And it all kind of came together because of this documentary that didn't get to air. So thank you for listening. I'm going to start posting to this channel a lot more, so please leave a comment, subscribe, like, click that follow button, as all the influencers say. And you can find me at Adoptee Thoughts on Instagram and on TikTok, and my website and podcast is all there, and I'll link it below.